So then in Nature Aquarium style, pioneered by Amano, so I have a lot more Amano pictures, or tanks from Amano in here, where I wouldn't say that they can't be minimalistic, but it's far more focused on actually reproducing nature, either in a couple of different ways. Either what you would actually see if you were snorkeling in lush places in nature, stream beds, or reproducing terrestrial landscapes, hillsides, mountain tops, forest scenes, anything like that, and kind of reproducing them in the tank. The main emphasis is that nothing should look contrived, or you should believe when you're looking at the tank that it's actually, it evolved this way just over time. It grew into exactly how it is. You wouldn't put a piece of wood that you'd sawed off and have the freshly sawed edge visible. You might use that piece, but you would obscure that edge with moss or some other type of hide it in some other way. The fish here are often smaller too, because you don't want to take away from the overall aquascape. I was putting this slide in just because there are some plants that Amano used earlier on. His Anubias, his Amano moss, a number of different fine leaf stems from Rotales obliquas, definitely Java fern, particularly the needle leaf variety. Hair grasses for sure. But really, this style has taken off so much all over the world that people are accomplishing fantastic Nature Aquarium style scapes with just about any plant that you can buy. I guess you don't see that many sword plants really in the Nature Aquarium ones, but I'm pretty sure it could be done, particularly with the smaller ones. So this was actually a series of slides that Amano gave. He's done a fantastic job, and why you see this, so why it's probably the most prominent form of aquascaping out there, is because he's managed to make it almost formulaic. And we've done these workshops ourselves in GWAPA. You start with the bare tank. If you want to do a bright sand foreground, you use your cardboard or some other kind of poster board divider to get your nutritious substrate, such as aqua soil, and then your inert sand. You hide those lines with a series of stones that are usually covered in moss or maybe riccia tied to them. You can use Anubias in the same way. Put in the rest of your hardscape, in this case driftwood, also covered fully in moss. Start your planting, let it grow in, do a couple of trims, and then you end up with a final scape. I mean, it's great. I mean, that's how so many people have gotten into the hobby, and they're very successful. These are very successful scapes, and that's why you can find a million of them that look just like this. Maybe not as well executed, but this is probably my favorite, and I don't even think this is the full tank. You can question though, you can really see why Iwagumi is kind of a subset that Amano has done inside of the Nature Aquarium, or how he's taken inspiration from that. You still have the tall grass in the background and the larger plants around the rocks, but and the small foreground plant. But there's something different. I think this looks more like doesn't look as much like an Iwagumi.
It's more like you can go sit down on a rock and have lunch.
Exactly. You just want to walk through here and explore. And again, the photographing, how it blends off into oblivion is amazing. I think this was in the 88 calendar 2 years ago. This is more your traditional Nature Aquarium style. A little bit of small little sand path going off to nothing, with the Anubias lining the way, which I think you could probably argue that's not entirely natural looking, but he gets away with it. Lots of Java fern, your hardscape. Nice stems. Again, what we mentioned before, unlike the Dutch style, you only see maybe 2 or 3 stems of red plants, just to give a little bit of a splash of color. But it's more about the hardscape setting up the scape here, and then you're drawing your eye. A little bit of negative space back here to mimic, so you can think this path continues. it's not just a mono, like I said. They're showing up all over the place. I have a couple of tanks from this last year's AGA contest. People have gotten really creative, letting wood kind of float down. They must have it suspended somehow up here. Moss covering everything. You can just imagine walking through some of the, I think some of the forests like in the northwest, or with moss over all of the wood and roots coming out of the, or in like the Amazon banyan trees, some of those types of things. And,
I got a great picture of one of those on the string.
and take the picture and make the scape right beside it. You can hang it over top, see if you can duplicate it.
No.
Or a gross approximation.
It would be gross.
Some really nice done that are, they're pretty much following. You can imagine, he didn't use bright sand, but the same principles. Hardscape, a lot of negative space, the wood softened by the mosses and the ferns, and then the small fish that you barely even notice until you look closer. Similarly, I think this one, people are getting more creative with the Nature Aquarium style, where actually using sand and other things to mimic waterfalls, or in this case, I think actually a riverbed running down between two hillsides, with the forest branches coming out and all the underbrush. It's really impressive stuff. So, I think these are the three styles. Any other questions about any of them?
Where do I get that wood?
Which one?
Any of them.
Yeah. I'm not sure what kind.
Group by.
I'm not sure what
That's
kind
the
of
problem.
wood that
It's hard
yeah.
to group by that, right?
Yeah. Well, you can. Aqua Forest in San Francisco has a lot of the woods that they bring in.
They're out. We asked.
They can't be out of all of the wood. They might be out of the type that Gossenfart got, but again, you're paying. You're gonna pay for it. This scape, I think, could be done with manzanita. At first, it would look funny because the manzanita is light colored, but it darkens up pretty well.
You just need to take the, like, you can take the picture and send it to the guys at Manzanita and say, I want driftwood that looks like this.
Really? Okay.
And they'll send you that.
I had them sending me a couple big trunks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the
tell
root
us, tell
mass.
them what you want, send them pictures of
Okay.
what you want.
Yeah. And the folks at manzanita.com, we've done lots of orders from them. I think the large box usually runs like $130 shipped, and that's probably more wood than you'll use in your entire lifetime. For the smaller one is like $75 shipped.
And depending on which option gets chosen at the workshop, we'd probably do an order of manzanita for the workshop, which will then end up in the club. So you'd have choice of purchasing there if there's large enough interest, and we might just do another group order.
I think what we did the last workshop is we ordered a full box, we used it in the workshop, then we divvied it up into reasonably even piles of, with each pile having a nice piece and complementary type ones, and then auctioning it off as needed.
Yeah.
Rock is harder just because you
It's
end
hard.
up having to get a, yeah, it's hard. You have to get a pallet. The times we have done, they literally show up in boulders, and then it's finding folks that are willing to go out with a sledgehammer and break it up.
You rent a jackhammer from Home Depot.
You still need to find the folks willing to.
You know,
See, that's what
Or
everyone.
for a floor chipper, you know, like when you take a tile from a bathroom.
Yeah.
That would be easier than just wielding a sledgehammer.
But
I
not
think
nearly as
Francine is
nasty.
I think
we're,
so. We'll have the pallet delivered to your front yard, and you just bring it when it's all broken up.
Yeah.
We can pick it up after it's broken up.
you know, I'm sure one stick of dynamite for a boulder, you know, you'd have lots of interesting sized pieces.
Yeah, lodged in yourself.
Come and walk.
That was just, I was joking. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we've.
Last time we did it, a bunch of us ended up with injuries, and Chris's car got dinged. And,
Yeah.
like I said, manly.
You mean badges of honor?
Yeah. Backs are broken. It's great.
But so, if there aren't any other questions, and I don't know what's left upstairs, food-wise,
I
or
think we should make an informal poll now.
okay, yeah. So
So what? Tell us about the contest. Like when is it?
Oh, new people.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't remember when we said we'd kick it off from that board meeting, but presumably. What's that?
Well, I assume it's after
Okay.
your church where we all get
Yeah,
together
so
and do
we'll
stuff.
start. We'll go through a number of meetings that are going to focus along. I believe we decide on a later deadline from past years to December 1st, so that you'll have a large portion of the year to put together 1, 2, 3, however many scapes you can fit in there. You can take your picture, so the contest is purely, all you submit is just a picture of it. So if you fit in 3 scapes, you take a picture after each one, tear it down, rescape. Most of these scapes that you see in here, I would bet that this is probably start to finish in 3 months. Because if they let it go much longer than this, all of a sudden it's just a pain to maintain. Some of the other scapes, like this, he could probably have this set up for a long time and change out the stems. More or less, this whole section wouldn't change much over a year. Thin out a little bit, but so for the contest, though, I think that the rules that were decided on: use whatever tank you have, and have we decided on any? I think we'll have to iron out some of the things as far as whether we'll be doing what kind of categories. But I believe once we vote, we'll put up a poll on the forum. But it'd be great to see what you guys are leaning towards now, and we'll choose a style so that whatever scape you do, you either, if we pick Nature Aquarium, all the submissions should be Nature Aquarium style, and go from there. We'll vote. I guess we'll all the submissions by December 1st, and then we'll announce, I think, at the holiday party.
Then you just vote until the holiday party?
Yep. Actually, I think we were talking about trying to get some external judges this year, in addition to the popular vote that we've done in the past, to really give some more feedback into, things you've done well, and then maybe some constructive criticism. And so, as Jen mentioned, is there any, by show of hands, how many folks would like to do the aquascaping contest as a Dutch style?
Come on.
All right, so we got 7 for Dutch. What about Iwagumi? All right, 4 for Iwagumi, 4 or 5, and then Nature Aquarium. Everyone else.
More like
okay.
half.
So this is informal. We'll see. We'll post it on the forum. I'll put the presentation up on the forum too, so anyone who wasn't able to attend can at least flip through the examples and see, and we'll go from there.